Good morning. In this episode, will property prices in Spain drop? And if so, when? Stay tuned.
Dzień dobry jeszcze raz do tego
Good
wideo.
morning once again.
Zmotywował mnie
This video was motivated by a conversation that took place under my last video, titled How Much Can You Earn from Your Apartment in Marbella and Costa del Sol?
O tytule ile zarobić na swoim apartamencie w Hiszpanii dla tych z
For those of you who haven't watched it yet, I warmly invite you to do so. In it, I talk about the rental rates we can expect when buying an apartment on the Costa del Sol, occupancy rates, and a range of other things. I also provide access to an investment calculator, where you can check and calculate for yourself what return rate would be satisfactory for you.
Jaka stopa zwrotu będzie dla Was satysfakcjonująca, natomiast
However, the conversation and correspondence revolved around the fact that one user accused me of assuming a continued rise in property prices.
Obejmuje dalszy wzrost cen nieruchomości. W związku z czym
Therefore, I thought it would be a good idea to record this video and delve a bit deeper into the topic of property price increases in Spain, as it might be of interest to some of you.
Może dla części z Was jest to temat interesujący. Myślę, że dla nas
I believe it is an interesting topic for all of us investors. So let's get started.
Więc zacznijmy.
User Pablo29 commented, "What if there is no growth? What if there is a correction in the real estate market? Why do you never talk about that? Real estate hasn't seen any correction in a long time. Why don't you mention that Smith's investment in this location could drop by half?" I allowed myself to respond. I think it's worth analyzing the data affecting the potential of the real estate market here. Wishful thinking that prices must drop someday is not enough. Everyone would like to buy cheaper.
Nie wystarczy. Każdy by chciał kupować taniej. I oczywiście, jeżeli boimy się spadku,
And of course, if we are afraid of declines and afraid of making investment decisions, then I do not encourage anyone to invest. Don't buy.
Nie kupujmy, czy nie kupujcie. Nie chciałbym, żeby
I wouldn't want anyone to accuse me of giving investment advice.
Oczywiście, ja sprzedaję nieruchomości.
Of course, I sell real estate in Spain. I invest in real estate in Spain myself. And as the entire Casa Ideal team, we invest our funds here because we see the great potential of this market.
Duży jest potencjał tego rynku i widzimy, że po prostu
We see that at this moment, it is one of the most interesting investment options in Europe or even in the world.
W Europie czy nawet na świecie. I oczywiście
And yes, we do sell these properties, but if someone has concerns, is afraid, doesn't want to invest, or simply doesn't believe what we are saying, it's better not to buy and sleep peacefully.
Natomiast wracając do tematu, chciałbym
However,
przedstawić Państwu
returning to the
raport
topic,
CaixaBank
I would like to present to you the CaixaBank Research Report, a company belonging to one of the Spanish banks that deals with analytics, including real estate market analysis.
I na konkretnych danych i na statystykach.
Based on specific data and statistics, let's answer the question of whether property price increases in Spain are likely or unlikely, and in which direction the market will go.
Podobne, czy w którą stronę pójdzie rynek? Spróbujmy
Let's
sobie
try to answer this question.
Prognozy wzrostu cen
Forecast for property price increases in Spain for the years 2024-2025. The real estate market in Spain is going through a dynamic period, and forecasts indicate a continuation of price increases in the coming years. According to the latest CaixaBank research report, further market expansion is expected, driven by strong demand and limited supply. Let's pause here for a moment. This is also what I always say in my materials, including the last one, that what we really profit from in Spanish real estate is the increase in value due to the fact that demand significantly exceeds supply.
Jest znacznie przewyższający podaż.
There are many more people interested in buying an apartment in Spain, whether for investment purposes, rental, retirement, or simply for themselves to visit, than there is actual supply.
Jest dużo więcej niż realnie podaż, szczególnie jeżeli
Especially when we talk about the supply from the primary market, the supply of new, fresh, and appealing apartments, which will also be discussed in the report shortly.
W raporcie. Tak jak powiedziałem.
As I mentioned, currently there is a shortage of new apartments on the market, so it is natural that if something is scarce, it is worth investing in it.
Brakuje, warto w to inwestować, bo siłą rzeczy te apartamenty
Inevitably, these new apartments will push out the 15-20-year-old ones from the market. Let's be honest, demand and we ourselves, whether we live here, come for vacations, or simply want to enjoy the place, are much more likely to prefer new, fresh, and fragrant apartments with beautiful pools, well-equipped gyms and spas, rather than 20-year-old, often neglected apartments.
Spa i tego typu rzeczy niż z 20-letnich, często już niedodbanych apartamentów.
The main factors shaping the real estate market. According to experts, the current situation in the Spanish real estate market is characterized by a significant demand exceeding supply, leading to accelerated price growth, especially in the new residential investment segment. In 2023, the market saw a 10% drop in the number of transactions due to interest rate hikes. But in 2024, the number of sold properties returned to levels significantly above the pre-pandemic average. From January to August 2024, around 578,000 transactions were completed, a historically high figure compared to the average of 450,000 annually from 2015-2019. Notably, there was a 7.7% year-on-year increase in the sale of new homes, while sales of existing homes fell by 3.1%. New apartments accounted for 20% of all transactions, which is an increase compared to 2023. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the statistics confirm that we are more inclined to buy new apartments, while the number of transactions in the secondary market is gradually declining. This is a natural process that will simply continue to occur. Another change is in the structure of buyers. The analysis also showed changes in the typology of buyers. Spaniards are increasingly investing in their first home, with an 8.6% increase in the first half of 2024, indicating their sensitivity to interest rate changes. On the other hand, the number of transactions involving foreigners increased by only 1.3%, although it remains at a high level. Buyers from outside Spain account for 14.7% of all transactions. I emphasize that this report covers all of Spain, but on the Costa del Sol, these statistics will be significantly higher in favor of foreigners. The fact is that even after talking to developers, neighbors, or just looking at registrations, it's clear that foreigners make up a significant majority, representing a very large percentage of foreign buyers on the Costa del Sol. And I must admit, Costa del Sol is a place where multiculturalism and multinationalism have worked out very well, as these different cultures and nationalities often manage to cooperate. It's truly something commendable, and it has really succeeded here in a positive sense. Prospects for 2025 and beyond. CaixaBank research predicts that in 2025, demand for real estate will continue to be supported by several factors, such as the creation of new jobs, with 400,000 additional employed, wage growth outpacing inflation, dynamic migration flows, high demand from foreigners, favorable financial situation of households, and household debt relative to GDP at 45.4%, while the Eurozone average is 50.4%. Additionally, the European Central Bank has announced a monetary easing policy through interest rate cuts, which will also increase the availability of mortgage loans. I must admit that here in Spain, the availability of mortgage loans is already high, and the interest rate on annual loans is quite attractive, currently around 3%. As a result, if the policy of lowering interest rates and increasing access to loans continues, it will certainly lead to a greater number of people wanting to buy property in Southern Europe, specifically in Spain, in the coming years.
Żeby kupić swoją nieruchomość na południu Europy, w Hiszpanii. Ograniczona podaż jako
Limited supply remains a key issue, as I mentioned earlier. Despite some signs of improvement, the housing supply in Spain remains insufficient, leading to continued pressure on price increases. In 2024, the number of building permits issued for new homes was around $115,000, and in 2025, a rise to 125,000 units is forecasted. However, the number of new households is growing at a rate of 250,000 per year, causing further shortages. The main barriers to increasing supply are the limited availability of building plots, a shortage of skilled labor, construction costs that are 30% higher than in 2019, regulatory changes affecting the construction sector, and low productivity levels in the construction industry. I believe these factors are not only relevant to Spain. I think this is a problem that is more widespread in Europe or even globally.
W Europie czy ogólnie na świecie, działek nie przybywa.
There are no more plots of land being added, and despite technological advancements in construction, regulations and policies related to building do not favor cheaper construction, making it increasingly expensive.
Żeby budować taniej, w związku z czym budownictwo jest coraz droższe. Takie miejsca jak Hiszpania,
Places like Spain and Southern Europe, where there are 320 sunny days a year. Like now, for example, I'm recording this at the end of November and beginning of December, and it's over 20 degrees Celsius. I have to hide in the shade because the sun is so generous here.
Bo tak słońce tutaj nas rozpieszcza. Więc to są takie miejsca, gdzie
These are places where people want to come, and migration favors these areas, so objectively speaking, I don't really see reasons for prices to start falling.
Patrząc, nie do końca widzę powody, dla których ma zacząć spadać. Wzrost cen utrudni dostęp do mieszkań.
The rise in prices will make access to housing more difficult, as I mentioned earlier. Apartments or flats are slowly becoming luxury goods across Europe and the entire world, becoming less accessible to average people. Therefore, governments are generally trying to find ways to increase the supply of housing, but it's clear that this is a process.
Na to, żeby ta podaż mieszkań była coraz większa, natomiast wiadomo, że to jest proces.
CaixaBank research estimates that property prices will rise by 4.1% in nominal terms by 2025, significantly outpacing the projected inflation. For comparison, prices increased by 7.1% in 2024. These dynamic increases make it difficult for many households to access housing, both in the buying and rental markets. This situation may have long-term social and economic consequences, affecting decisions about starting families, worker mobility, and labor availability. Experts emphasize that the lack of simple solutions to increase the supply of housing, especially affordable ones, requires long-term actions. However, forecasts indicate that in the coming years, the supply should gradually increase, which may alleviate the current market situation. In summary, CaixaBank research forecasts for 2024-2025 indicate a continued rise in property prices in Spain, driven by strong demand and limited supply. Constraints related to housing access remain a key challenge for the market, necessitating a strategic approach to balance current disparities and improve housing availability for a broad range of buyers. The link to this, of course, is in the description of this video. So, what else can I say? Historically, real estate has always been a good that not only protected against inflation, but also against the devaluation of money. Places like Spain, especially Costa del Sol, Marbella, and the surrounding areas, are places where people are eager to visit and spend time, not just for vacations.
Chętnie przyjeżdżają, chętnie spędzają czas, nie tylko wakacyjny. Też inny raport pokazuje.
Another report I recently read shows that more and more people are deciding to move their entire lives here. Particularly, we are talking about people who work remotely, such as programmers, or those working in corporations under remote work arrangements, or running businesses that can be managed remotely.
Lub prowadzą biznes, który można prowadzić również zdalnie. To te osoby coraz częściej.
These individuals are increasingly choosing to live here permanently. Therefore, in my opinion, long-term rentals will become more significant, not just short-term vacation rentals.
Nie tylko wynajem krótkoterminowy, wakacyjny, ale długoterminowy.
This could also be an interesting opportunity for those who want to have a diversified real estate portfolio, balancing both vacation and long-term rentals. It could be very well balanced.
Wynajem wakacyjny, jak i wynajem długoterminowy może to być bardzo fajnie zbalansowane. Sam zresztą też myślę o tym.
I myself am also considering balancing my real estate portfolio in this way next year. Therefore, there are many factors that contribute to the high growth potential in the real estate market. And I hope this video has shown you that this is indeed the case.
I mam nadzieję, że to wideo też Państwu pokazało, że faktycznie tak jest. Natomiast też muszę
However,
powiedzieć, że bardzo
I
cieszę
must
się
also
z tego,
say that
że
I am very pleased that the comments and discussions are ongoing.
komentarze i ta dyskusja się toczy. Myślę, że bardzo
I think it's a
dobrym
very good idea and a very good
założeniem
principle not to
jest
trust and
ufać
believe
i nie
everything we
wierzyć
hear on the
absolutnie,
internet,
podchodzić do tego, co słyszymy w internecie, nawet od takich
even
osób
from
jak ja,
people like me, regarding various investments and so on.
inwestycji i tak dalej. Warto jest samemu też zrobić research.
It's worth doing your own research, talking to others, and verifying what I say through other sources before making a decision about whether it's worth investing in real estate on the Costa del Sol in Spain.
Czy warto inwestować w nieruchomości na Costa del Sol w Hiszpanii, czy nie? Ja
Based on the number of clients we have, the conversations we have, and the fact that most of these clients are very wealthy and generally know what to do with their money, there is little doubt that the potential here is currently very high.
I które raczej wiedzą, co robić z pieniędzmi, nie mają większych wątpliwości co do faktu i co do tego, że po prostu tutaj ten potencjał...
Especially when we consider the uncertain future of the conflict in Ukraine, which is happening near our borders.
Nieodgadnioną przyszłość konfliktu na Ukrainie, który toczy się koło naszych granic, więc...
So not only do we have investments, but we also have the security of diversifying our assets.
Naszego majątku. Sytuacja geopolityczna na świecie.
The geopolitical situation in the world is what it is. I think we have interesting times ahead of us, interesting times behind us, but I believe interesting times are ahead as well.
W świecie Hiszpania, czy ogólnie takie miejsca.
And in this world, Spain, or generally such places, appear as a kind of oasis or haven of peace and security.
Bezpieczeństwa. Także życzę Państwu udanych inwestycji.
So I wish you successful investments. I wish you successful purchases.
Również do dyskusji, jeżeli ktoś z Państwa byłby...
I also invite you to a discussion. If any of you would be interested in talking a bit more deeply about your specific situation and about specific apartments, feel free to contact me on WhatsApp. I'd be happy to talk, happy to help.
Do kontaktu. Chętnie porozmawiam, chętnie pomogę.
All the best. Take care. Bye.